Welcome to the Connect Your Health to Life coaching podcast. I'm your host, Seth Lusk. I'm a master certified self-image coach and empowered health coach with a decade-long background working in the health and wellness industry. If you're anything like me or the clients that I work with, then you're probably struggling with body image, self-image, or confidence issues. You're probably also trying to figure out why it is that you have these amazing desires for living your healthiest and most fulfilling life, but you can't seem to create consistent actions in your life to reflect those desires. So join me as we dive in deep on what it means to live a fulfilled and authentic life. We're going to look from the perspective of an empowered mindset and uncover reasons why you might be what's holding yourself back from living your most fulfilling life. I'm going to break through some of the biggest illusions and myths that we've all been taught to believe along the way. And I'm so excited to have you with me on this journey. So my only question for you is, are you ready to start living your most authentic and fulfilling life once and for all? Then let's get started, shall we? Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. For those of you listening in for the first time, welcome. You picked yet again another interesting topic to join in on if this is your first time listening. Also, for those of you joining in for, I believe this week is our 60th episode. This is also going to be fascinating for you. So today, my friends, I have a topic very near and dear to my heart because for those of you who don't know, before I made my business more of a life coaching based business, I was a nutrition specialist and personal trainer. I still offer these things to my clients, but they are not the focus of my work. The focus of my work is life coaching. A lot of my clients that are life coaching clients of mine have health goals, and so we always get to talking about how they want to take better care of themselves and their bodies. And, you know, I use my expertise and my experience of being a nutrition specialist and personal trainer for almost a decade, or actually longer than a decade. And I use that to help them to make empowered decisions of their own. So today we're talking about dieting, and that's why it's so near and dear to my heart, my friends, is because I started my journey into helping people live their most authentic, fulfilling life as someone who is helping people mainly with their diet and their exercise. And it was actually through this that I discovered I wasn't actually helping people to live their most empowered and authentic lives by being a personal trainer and nutrition specialist, because there was a whole lot going on behind the scenes that I wasn't touching as a personal trainer and nutrition specialist. And I wanted to help my clients with that first before we looked at how do we want to exercise and eat foods. So today, at the beginning of 2022, we're now in the second week of 2022, a brand new year, and I know that many of you out there have set goals for yourself surrounding your health. And for the vast majority of you out there that have set goals surrounding your health, there is an aspect of it that involves your weight, which means maybe you want to gain weight. Maybe you want to lose weight. Maybe you want to put on more muscle. Maybe you want to lose body fat. Maybe you don't want the weight to change and you want to... Anyways, all of these different things. And when the vast majority of you look at this as being a health goal of yours, along with this comes the big D word. And get your minds out of the gutter here. I'm not talking about the other big D word. I'm talking about dieting, okay? Today we are talking about dieting. And there are so many things that we could talk about when it comes to dieting. And the majority of the health and fitness industry, they tend to focus on quick tips and quick tricks to help you make your diet work with your schedule and your food cravings and all of the other things that you're trying to juggle at the same time. And then there's this other part of the health and fitness industry that focuses on what foods are good and what foods are bad, and therefore which foods you should or should not eat. And my friends, if you know anything about me, you know good and bad foods should or should not eat. These are not words that we use in our vocabulary when it comes to the diet, okay? So, the vast majority of people, when encountering the word diet, associate it with these things and automatically think of weight loss. And therefore, the health and fitness industry use this version of what that word means to most people to market, and make tons and tons of money. And I'm not trying to say this because I'm trying to say the health and fitness industry is bad. My friends, it's an industry. Industries are run by demand. We are demanding from them weight loss and quick tips and tricks because that's what we think is the solution. So today what I want to talk about is why that isn't the solution. I want to talk to you all about dieting from a slightly different perspective. I don't want to give you a list of foods to eat and not to eat and why and you should and shouldn't eat them, although I could talk to you a whole lot about nutrition and how the foods that you're eating or not eating, how it's affecting your body. These are all things, though, that you have tools already available to you to schedule and hammer down in your own timing. And I also recommend doing this with a coach. It could be very helpful. A coach such as myself who works with many people on their health goals. But this isn't the side of that I want to talk about. I don't want to talk about how do we schedule meal prepping. I don't want to talk about, how we work in grocery shopping. This isn't what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about today is why dieting, at least the way that we tend to see the word, doesn't serve most people in achieving their health goals. I want to talk about how the very way you even start approaching thinking about diet could be the very thing that's blocking you from achieving the health goals that you're actually looking for. I want to talk with you all today about how diets as we have been taught to look at them are probably not the solution for what it is that you're looking for in your health. And I want to talk to you about what it is that you're really wanting to get to in the life that you're picturing in your head, that you have told yourself so many times before, maybe that's just not for me because I can't do it. I've done it so many times and I've never made it before, blah, 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 blah. I want to show you why it might be that dieting and starting with dieting is probably the source of why this hasn't been working for you. So let's start by looking at the definition of the word diet. You guys know I like to start my episodes with looking at some definitions. So let's look at the definition of the word diet. Okay, so the word diet, the definition is the kind of food that a person, animal, or community habitually eats. Okay? So it's the kind of food that you habitually eat. Now there's a second definition that's been added in for this word, and this is the one that most of us look at. The other definition is a special course of food to which a person restricts themselves to lose weight or for medical reasons. I also want to add in here to gain weight. When this definition was put in the dictionary, there maybe weren't a lot of people that were looking to gain weight with diet, but there are actually people that are starting to notice you can use the way that you eat to do this. But my friends, the definition that I want to focus on today is actually the first definition, because what I see mostly in the world today is the use of the second definition, to the point where the first definition of diet seems to be almost non-existent in people's minds when they hear the word. And this in and of itself has created some very problematic results in our society and in us individually when it comes to our relationship with food and our bodies. So originally, diet was simply meant to mean the chosen habitual types of foods that a person eats. And then what has happened is, as a result of some very addictive and non-serving substances making it onto this list of what we call quote-unquote food, those have been entering our diet, and weight gain has happened to the point of a rate which is creating a ton of health problems around the world. And this has created this desire for weight loss to be a goal for many people. And so the second definition of diet kind of came in, and it's sort of become our predominant view of what the word dieting means. So the term diet has slowly morphed into mostly meaning its second definition of this special way of eating that restricts people from eating certain foods in order to lose weight or for medical reasons. And I want to talk right off the bat about why seeing it this way is a bit problematic, or something about this view is a bit problematic. And it's the fact that the word restriction is in there. Restriction implies this deprivation of freedom, or this act to choose, which implies that a person wants to do something but isn't allowed to do it. And what I want to say is that this is an illusion that supports and encourages a victim mindset. And I want to talk about this a little bit more and why it's creating so many issues surrounding the word dieting for so many people. But before we do that, let's look at a few other things here. So one of the questions that I want to answer today is, why is it that so many people turn to diets when it comes to caring for their health? Well, the first and most obvious reason is that what we eat has a huge impact on our health. When we eat something, our body breaks it down and then uses the materials to build living tissue and to keep living tissue that's already existing alive. Meaning that paying attention to the substances that we put into our body is quite important. The ones that we put into our body on a regular basis. Now, the problem with the second version of the definition of diet is that it only focuses on short term to lose weight. So what I want you to imagine here is, imagine going to make a brick and mortar wall, okay? And for those of you who don't know what mortar is, it's the substance between bricks on a wall. It's basically cement that is used to make the bricks stick together, okay? And I want you to imagine using flour in water instead of cement powder or the powder to make mortar. So I want you to imagine using flour instead to mix with the water and using that between your bricks. That wall isn't going to go very high before it starts falling over. And if you get it up to a certain height that you want, it certainly won't stay upright for very long, with that mixture being what's holding the bricks together. Okay? So the same concept applies to our bodies and the foods that we put into it. Okay? Our body is basically trying to build brick walls to keep us strong, keep us healthy, and if we're giving it the wrong substances, that wall is weak. It will be knocked over. It won't be built as it's supposed to be built. So the same concept applies here. When we give our body substances that are harmful to it, or eat certain substances in amounts that are greater or less than what our body actually needs, or when we overconsume substances at the expense of other substances that our body needs, well, then our diet creates a lot of unhealthy and often unwanted results in our body. So basically the brick wall falls over. So here I'm talking about things like the results, how it shows up in our body would be things like deficiencies, hormone issues, digestive issues, issues with the central nervous system and its ability to regulate itself, or your ability to learn and focus. So many issues that our diet, by the original definition, can create within our bodies. And again, remember, the original definition is the foods that we choose to eat on a regular basis. For another group of people, there is the suggestion from their doctor to change their diet to care for their health. So there is this group of people out here that the goal isn't just to eat to be healthy. The goal isn't just to eat to create health in their life. The goal is that their doctor is telling them that there's something going on in their body and that changing their diet could help to fix this dysfunction in their body. And we're talking about diseases such as, high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity, osteoporosis, food allergies, hormone imbalances, genetic anomalies, etc. There are, even epilepsy can be treated with diet. There are so many disorders in the body in which changing the diet can help to reduce or eliminate the level of disorder in the body. So another reason why people turn to diet to take care of their health. So we've got, basically just to build a healthy body in general and take care of our body. Then we've got the people that maybe their doctor has recommended for them to change their eating habits for treating disease in their body. Then there's another reason why. So some people may be underweight and want to change their diet to try and gain weight. This could be in the case of someone who's maybe wanting to look more muscular, or it could be because someone has been malnourished for a certain period of time and their body is struggling due to a lack of nourishment. And again, this could be that their doctor has caught it and told them to eat more food to gain weight. Which brings me to the last and final reason why I see a lot of people turning to diet when it comes to their health, and we talked about it already earlier, and this is when it comes to weight loss. So many people turn to the word diet as a solution for weight loss. And the truth is, diet in its original meaning is going to, as a side effect, have a healthy impact on our weight. But what the majority of us are doing is turning to a diet as a way to restrict ourselves to get to a certain weight. We're using it as a way to almost punish or manipulate ourselves to get to a certain weight in which we think will be good enough. So why is it, if so many of us are turning to dieting as a solution for our health, why is it that so many people are still struggling when it comes to dieting? And I know a lot of you think, oh, it's because of timing. It's because I don't know how to plan. It's because I don't know how to meal prep. It's because I don't know how to grocery shop. It's because I don't know what foods to eat and what not to eat. I get that. You've been taught to focus on these things as being the solution. And for some of you, this is a small part of what you're struggling with. But I want to talk to you all about some reasons today why people are struggling with dieting that go a bit deeper and start a bit further back than with how you're planning your meals, the timing of your meals, the portion sizing, the meal prepping, all of that. Before we even get to that point, there are some issues that are creating a lot of struggle with people when it comes to the word dieting. First of all, the first big struggle is that so many people automatically associate the word with meaning weight loss, when there are, in fact, so many reasons to change our diet, the foods that we eat regularly. And many people resist making changes to their food choices, or choosing to not eat particular foods, or choosing to be mindful of portion sizes of certain foods, or choosing to not eat certain substances that we've labeled as foods that I would beg to differ aren't actually food. And they struggle with this because they see the term dieting with meaning weight loss. And maybe they have a very negative relationship with the thought of weight loss. And many people do, especially people who have dieted and tried to lose weight so many times over and over again. So already right there, the word dieting, so many people struggle because of their relationship with the word and the idea of weight loss. And another way that people struggle, and I struggled with it for many years as a naturally thin person, is that I wanted to eat healthy to take care of my body. And I would be at a meal with friends, and I would, look at the menu, and I would choose very intentionally the foods that I wanted to eat, and, maybe tell the waiter, hey, leave this off and give me this instead. Maybe I don't want the French fries. Can I have vegetables instead? And every time I would get these comments of, you're already so thin though. Why are you trying to lose weight? You're too skinny. You could use more junk food in your life. Just eat what you want. And I've seen people that are trying to lose weight in situations like this as well, where they're intentionally making decisions to eat foods that serve their bodies, and then people start virtue signaling them of, oh, that's such a good job. I'm so proud of you for making this decision and, eating these healthy foods to lose the weight. And this association with eating healthy having to mean weight loss, that it's not about just taking care of your body, and that it's each and every one of our individual choices as to what foods those will be and what they won't be, and all of the, butting in and feedback that comes along with it. So many comments that can come along with when people observe you making conscious decisions about the foods that you eat. And here's the thing, for me, I started getting self-conscious about making intentional decisions of the food I was eating. And I wasn't overweight trying to lose weight. I just wanted to take care of my body and wanted to, age as gracefully and healthy as possible. But every time I was eating in front of people, they felt the need to comment on my food choices, about why I wanted veggies instead of fries. People had no clue that maybe I wanted veggies because I wanted more vitamins and minerals and more fiber, and I didn't want to consume the oxidized oil that was in the fryer frying the French fries because it makes me sick. It destroys my digestive system. I know what it does in my body, and I don't want it in my body. Or maybe it's just that I prefer the taste of vegetables. Or maybe it's because my body didn't need more carbohydrates that day, so vegetables are a little bit of a lower carbohydrate choice, and they have a lot of vitamins and minerals in it. So many reasons why a person could intentionally choose to eat another food versus another food. And I know so many of you out there are struggling with this perspective that eating healthy, or quote-unquote dieting, which, again, by the original definition of the word, is just the foods that we choose to eat on a regular basis. But so many people out there struggle with this perspective that eating healthy is just about weight loss. And my friends, what I want to say is this: eating healthy is about fueling your body and giving it the proper building blocks that it needs to perform its best. Think of the brick wall at the beginning. This is the one body that you and I get. Eating healthy is about taking care of it. I want you to think about if you were to buy a Bentley And a Bentley only takes premium gas, because regular gas could clog up the engine and cause it to not run like it should, cause it to smoke, cause it to maybe even not run at all anymore. So if I go to the gas station and I put premium gas in my Bentley and someone comes up and comments on this, well, do I then turn around and start putting regular gas in my car because someone thinks that using premium gas is maybe, I don't know, stuck up? And that, of course, the only reason that anyone would ever use premium gas is because they're stuck up and they think they're too good for regular gas. I mean, think about that. I mean, if I gave into that and believed in this and let that, conflict of what some people think regular gas means and what putting premium gas in my car means, well, then if I start using regular gas in my car, this Bentley that I just spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on, well, it's now a piece of garbage. And what I want you to begin seeing, my friend, is that your body is a Bentley. Give it what it's designed to run on, not just what is popular to give it or what your upbringing might have misguided you into thinking that you should be or should not be giving it, or what your friends, joke and poke fun at you about eating or not eating. Learn what your body actually needs, not what your mind craves, and give it that. Treat your body like the Bentley that it is. This is what eating healthy is about. And when you do this, my friends, some people aren't going to understand. Some people will begin to feel maybe some guilt or shame around their own internal narrative about how they're caring for their own body and not making intentional decisions about the foods that they're eating. And many of these people will make comments to you about you choosing to intentionally eat in a way that serves you and your body and your purpose in life. Remember that you are making decisions to care for your body and your authentic way, because this is your authentic life. It is not anybody else's. Okay? So remember that. So they don't have to understand it, okay? Moving on to the next reason why I see people suffering and struggling and maybe even feeling unfulfilled in their journey of dieting is because they see it as this temporary quick fix to a problem that they have or see with themselves. And there are a few things in here that create problematic issues going about dieting this way. I see this being especially true when it comes to weight loss, okay? But there are some other places in life, such as treatment of temporary disease or disorder in the body, in which, this dieting could also be seen as a quick fix. But when it comes to weight loss, what I see happening over and over is that people will choose really drastic ways to quickly change the way that they're eating so that they can get really quick results and hurry up and quote unquote get back to enjoying life. And this is because two reasons. Number one, they're coming from a restrictive mindset, which we're going to talk about later. And number two is because they're making changes from a place of shame and resistance. So they want to hurry up and get away from somewhere. And I've talked about this with you guys before in previous episodes. Toward and away from energy. I recommend you go back and listen to the episode that I did on that. Away from energy is coming from a space of resistance and shame, versus toward energy, which is coming from a space of motivation and true want and desire in life. When we use shame, resistance, guilt as the source of how we're going to take action, all it's designed for is to get you away from where you are. But it is not designed to take you where it is that you want to go. Away from energy, which again, as I said, comes from resistance, shame, guilt, self-loathing, self-hate, self-disgust, all of these different resistive spaces that it can come from when we have a negative image of ourselves. This energy is only designed to get you out of discomfort. That's all it's designed for, and to do it quickly. It's not designed to get you anywhere that you're actually wanting to go. And here's another part of this I want you to remember. Discomfort is a sign of an area where you're wanting to and have the opportunity to grow. It's not a sign to run away. So when we use this away from energy, what we're actually doing is teaching ourselves the habit of running away from growth, and therefore running away from any real fulfilling change in our life. Which means that this way of approaching weight loss will not give you the fulfilling lifelong change that you're actually looking to make for your health at the start of wanting to change. No, it's not going to give you that. It's going to give you a quick, sprint away from where you are to somewhere else, who knows where that'll be, only to lead you right back to where you are right now. When I see people going into dieting with this approach of hurry up and get to this goal weight, either the person doesn't make it to the weight goal because the amount of internal violence occurring from the resistance and the shame and the guilt that they have with themselves becomes too much, and therefore they just go right back to the old habits because, the amount of internal violence occurring by them shaming themselves constantly is just, it's so detrimental to our emotional and even our physical health. So I see people using this and then just giving up and going right back because the amount of internal violence just becomes too much. Or the other common pattern that I see occurring is that people will hurry up to get to a certain weight. And then they get to the weight, but guess what? They don't feel any better about themselves. They look in the mirror, they weigh the amount that they want to, but they still have the same old habits of how they talk to themselves and look at themselves. And therefore, they go back to the other familiar old habits and put the weight right back on. Or they push even harder to lose even more weight, believing that maybe it's that they didn't lose enough weight yet. Maybe there's another lower number. Or maybe if they're trying to gain weight, there's more that they need to gain. And they need a higher number before they're going to finally feel good about themselves. And sometimes people make it through several cycles of this before they go back to the old patterns. Or they end up developing another pattern of disordered eating in which they're starving their body to the point of dysfunction. Or if it's someone trying to gain weight, that they gorge themselves to the point of dysfunction. But my friends, the truth is, whenever we approach it from this way, we always end up back in a pattern of dysfunction. We always end up back in a pattern of dysfunction. When it's the weight that's the goal that's going to make you feel what it is that you think you want to feel about yourself. When you get to that weight, you're not going to feel that way. You have to choose to feel that on your journey. On your journey. And that's what's going to pull you towards the healthy choices that the weight will then be a side effect of. But the weight's not going to make you feel the way you want to feel about your body. You will get to that weight, you will still feel the same about your body at a different weight. And then believe you either need to continue gaining or losing weight or just give up altogether and go back to the old patterns. But either way, no matter what, coming from this path, eventually it leads you back into a path of dysfunction and to a path of internal violence where you are shaming and guilting yourself about your body again, and you end up with a negative relationship with your body and food. So my friends, seeing dieting as a temporary quick fix, it's not a solution. Diet is how you choose to eat to serve your body, long-term, regularly. And this diet can adapt as we age and as our body's needs differ as we age. But diet is not a quick fix to hurry up and get you somewhere like a certain weight, where you will, quote unquote, finally start liking yourself and your body and feel better about yourself in your life. I have seen people try this more times than I can count, guys. I've seen it so many times. And even if they accomplish the weight loss, they just look in the mirror. They look at their body that weighs a little bit less with the same amount of disgust, judgment, shame, dissatisfaction, disapproval, lack of acceptance. The weight or the size of your body is not going to make you change your opinion of yourself. However, changing your opinion of yourself will change how you care for your body. And a side effect of this is a healthy weight that is authentically healthy for you. You see, here's the other part of this. There is no weight out there that is healthy or unhealthy for everyone. Every person and their body knows what weight they are actually authentically and truly healthiest and happiest at. Some people will have a little bit more muscle than fat. Some people have a little bit more fat than muscle. Neither is more beautiful or less. Neither is more acceptable or less. Some people will weigh a little bit more. Some people will weigh a little bit less. Neither is healthier or less healthier. When we are at our authentically healthy weight, neither is healthier or less healthier. Okay? We are beautiful and we are healthy when we are at that authentically healthy weight. And we get there by first choosing the path of acceptance, then caring for ourselves in a way of love and acceptance, and then we let the body show us where it thrives best. This means when we are making the change to make ourselves more worthy of our own acceptance, then when we are trying to change ourselves for reasons that are not authentic to our true purpose in life, we are changing for a standard of conditions we feel that we must meet in order to be acceptable in this life. And these conditions, my friends, they are an illusion. We start from a place of where we are already acceptable and lovable. Our acceptableness, our lovability is not conditional. It is unconditional. So changes being made to increase these is a sure sign that what you're doing is creating change from a place of internal resistance and internal violence. And this will take you nowhere that you authentically want to be in your life. I promise you this. I promise. And this leads us to the next reason why people struggle with dieting. And this is the why. The why they are dieting. The purpose for the diet is not authentic for the person making the changes. That's one of the biggest struggles I see. When it comes to diets being suggested by doctors to treat disease, the why is usually not authentic. I see so many people struggling with having an authentic why once the doctor says, hey, this is going on in your body. This is a way you could change your diet to fix that and to help that. I've talked about purpose with you all many times before, and also about authenticity. Authenticity has a lot to do with purpose. Purpose answers the question of why, and this applies here as well with choosing the foods that we eat. So purpose allows us to authentically choose the foods we want to eat. Many times, when it comes to a health concern and a doctor suggests changing the way a person eats, this becomes a struggle because the person experiences maybe fear or worry or shame or urgency or anxiety. And in the case of these emotions, more often than not, people are not used to processing the emotion and finding out what is there to show them and then getting clear on what the genuine higher want is at the time. So instead, what people do is they become resistant and reactive when experiencing these emotions. And this leads to taking actions out of resistance and reaction. An action taken in this space is usually not aligned with purpose. Many times decisions are made in these situations of panic, and the decisions are made using very black or white, good or bad, right or wrong kinds of thinking. And in these decisions that are being made, they're being made from this resistive, reactive energy. And there is very little introspection about what decisions the person actually wants to make when considering their health and their higher calling or purpose. More often than not, this leads to two fairly common drastic decisions, which is either one, change their diet drastically. And when this is done, more often than not, after a period of time, the person begins to feel cheated or in a prison or some sort of place where they feel that they're missing out on happiness or joy in life in some way because the change in foods they're eating and not eating is somehow, sucking the joy out of their life. And what I want to say is this comes from a mindset of restriction. And we're going to talk about this and how this creates struggle for many people when it comes to dieting. But for now, I just want you to know that for many people with a medical diagnosis, when they take the path of making drastic changes, many times it leads to this feeling of missing out on life and feeling restricted in their life, which is why they struggle with changing their diet. I also see so many people feeling this way when I ask them about why they chose to change their eating habits. And they start using language like should, which immediately points to this change being inauthentic, that it wasn't aligned with a why that is authentic to them. Often this comes from a sense of obligation maybe to family, to stay healthy, rather than it being from this decision of empowered choice of wanting to stay healthy and knowing the authentic purpose of why they want to stay healthy. And this is so important to know and see, to keep that at the forefront of deciding on diet changes. But most people are not doing this. They're making the changes because they feel guilty or obligated to, because of their doctor, or maybe because of how they're afraid society is going to look at them if they, don't want to make the changes and they just want to let their body go. Or maybe they want to make some of the changes and just accept that, they're maybe going to die a few years earlier than they would if they made all of the changes. But that's okay. Their goal in life isn't to live forever. So this leads to this feeling of restricted because these people aren't making decisions from an empowered, authentic space. They're making decisions from a space of guilt, shame, and obligation. And this is not to say that we might not want to stay around to spend more time with our family, but that is an empowered choice. And if there is a feeling of restriction behind it, it's because it wasn't made from that space of an empowered choice. It's the person feeling like, oh, I have to do this. I'm not allowed to do what it is that I want to do. When the truth is, maybe the decision is they want to live to be 100 years old. And so therefore, to do that, they will want to make these changes to their diet to accomplish that. So it's not that you have to. It's not that you're not allowed to do what you want. Actually, changing the diet is allowing you to do what you want, which is to live to be 100 years old. And I know that many of you want to overlook this point, this part of making food choices and making empowered decisions from a space of want to instead of should or have to. And we're going to talk about this in a bit. But let's get to the second path of action that I see people taking when it comes to medical diagnosis here. So the second path that I see people take, and it actually comes from fairly the same situation, it's just a different choice of action, is that they resist the reality of the health situation or making diet changes, and they refuse to change anything. And many times this happens because, again, the person feels or fears feeling restricted. They feel like they will feel restricted if they make the changes, and they don't want to feel restricted, so they just make the choice to not make any changes, no matter what consequence it has on their health. Even though their goal may actually be to take care of their health, but they don't want to feel restricted, and they feel like they will have to feel restricted if they make these changes. So again, this comes back to this mindset of restriction, or maybe from this idea that somehow you're being controlled. And what I want to say is, I get it. This is very understandable. But this feeling of being controlled comes from the illusion that the person that is changing or not changing the diet habits is not the one making the decision from genuine wants on their own to change their diet habits. The doctor is just suggesting it. You get to decide what you want to do genuinely with that suggestion. This choice of action to not do anything can also come from the space of believing that they would have to make a change, or that the change would have to be or should be some huge change, and that it should be that or no change at all. You know, a lot of times a doctor with a medical diagnosis, or even if it's not from a doctor, they might go online and read, okay, I have this, so what changes does the internet say that I can make to help with my body? And some of these changes that are suggested can be quite drastic. And when we come at it from the space of should and have to, and this belief that if I don't do it this way, if I can't do it all, and do it perfectly right, then there's no point in doing it. And then we get into this space of being reactive, and you know what? It's just, I'm not going to change anything at all. And what I want to encourage you all to begin considering is that even in the case of illness, you still get to make the decision of how you want to go about caring for your body. Maybe your doctor suggests making 5 changes and you want to start with 1 and then work up to 2 and then work up to 3. And maybe you don't even want to eventually get up to 5. Maybe you only want to do 3 of them. That is your decision to make, but you'll never know what the decision is that you want to make if you aren't clear on what your goal and your purpose is in this life. What is your mission? What are you trying to accomplish? And how are these changes going to help you to do that? If you're not clear on that, then all of these choices you're making here are going to feel inauthentic and like you're being restricted and controlled, and that you have to and should make changes. So another way in which people choose to change their diet, and in which, again, the why can be inauthentic, is when people choose to use diet to gain weight. So changing the diet to gain weight can be for many reasons. Wanting to build muscle, being malnourished, and therefore underweight. These are just 2 of the reasons that I can think of off of the top of my head. So the reason for being malnourished and underweight falls in line very much with the medical diagnosis. And the struggles I see here are very similar to the ones I mentioned in the category when we're talking about changing the diet for medical reasons. Where I want to give more attention today in this podcast episode is on the specific reason of people wanting to gain weight, which is for aesthetics and for building muscle. Now, sometimes this is genuinely because of a medical reason. I've had many personal training clients who have had doctors to tell them, hey, your aches and your pains and your health issues that you're experiencing are actually stemming from a lack of muscle in this particular area of your body. And so putting on some muscle here will help you solve for this health concern. And diet is part of the solution along with exercise. But there's another side to wanting to gain weight with changing the diet though. And I've talked about it in a previous episode. And this is for aesthetics or bodybuilding, putting on muscle for those reasons. And I see many people create dysfunctional relationships with food in this area. And again, it goes back to the fact that the why is not authentic. The motive behind this one, more often than not, when I see people creating a dysfunctional relationship with food because of it, It's because the motivation was due to a lack of self-acceptance or approval and wanting to change the body to feel more acceptable, to feel more likable, to feel more attractive, to feel more whatever. And the reason why this is destructive so many times is because the motive behind wanting to change the body to be more of these things is because the person is not allowing themselves to feel, not allowing themselves to have thoughts or beliefs that they are acceptable, that they are attractive, that they are likable, or whatever it is that they're saying that they're not enough of. And this comes from a space of internal self-judgment. They are in a relationship of conditional worth and shame and disgust with their body, and they believe that changing their body will change that relationship. And what this means is that the decision to change diet as a part of that is being made from this place again of resistance, conditional worth, internal violence, shame, guilt, and judgment. It's not being made from a space of love and empowered decision making, which is based in purpose, which is how we want to make decisions when it comes to starting a diet. So let's move on to the other part of changing the diet and how the why is not authentic here, and that's when it comes to losing weight. The why here can still be so inauthentic in so many different ways. And for the same reason why it can be inauthentic when it comes to wanting to gain weight. Many people are choosing to lose weight to feel more acceptable, lovable, attractive, sexy, beautiful. So many different words that they can be thinking, I'm not enough of this. And dieting will help me get to the weight at which I will feel these things about myself. And my friends, these are feelings. These are also adjectives, which means that first of all, you're responsible for the feelings. Second of all, they're adjectives and therefore subjective words. I did an entire podcast episode on this topic of what it means to look good. Feel Good, Look Good was the title, and I suggest going back and listening to that episode. So, briefly, I know that society tends to push certain images and body types in different times, different centuries, different decades, and even in different years and times of the year. And in 2022 now, we can be so inundated with these images nonstop if we do not constantly choose to not be exposed to them nonstop. But here's the thing. You do not need to run out and avoid these images. That's not what I'm saying here. What you want to do is become aware of the impact you are allowing them to have on your beliefs about beauty, sexiness, attractiveness, and therefore how you choose to think and view yourself, or think about yourself and view yourself. The concept of beauty and attractiveness on a social scale has changed so many times in the course of human history. And the reason why is because there are so many different forms of it. And our society tends to find one at any particular time and focuses on it, praises it for a period of time until another form slips into society's view and it shifts again. So what does that mean for us? Why is this important here? It's important for us because we want to recognize that beauty and attractiveness are our own decision to make. It is not an objective fact. If magazines or the internet are not focusing on your particular brand of body, beauty, attractiveness, sexiness, that does not change your beauty, attractive sexiness. But I want you to ask, how often do you choose beliefs about yourself that make you feel less attractive, less beautiful, or less acceptable based on the current popular image that the media is focusing on? How often do you do that? That is where choosing to change your diet based on the desire for weight loss starts to become destructive. This is where it starts. Many people choose a diet after seeing some image of some person or seeing a movie with some person in it or hearing about some person and how sexy they are and blah, 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 and how society is focusing on how sexy they are and that is beautiful. And then they start comparing themselves to that person and find all of the ways in which they are different and therefore not good enough. And one of those ways is if the person they are comparing themselves to happens to be skinnier or less skinny than them, maybe has more muscles if you're a guy and you want to put on muscle. And thus, a person begins their weight loss or weight gain journey to bridge the comparison gaps in hopes to feel better about themselves once they've achieved the same body as the person they're comparing to. This, however, can lead into this endless cycle of just finding someone else on the media that's being praised for being even thinner, or for guys being more muscular, or for girls that want to be more muscular, another athlete that is being more muscular. And then you want to be as thin or as muscular as that person because you believe you need to be as thin or as muscular as them in order to like yourself. So it just repeats and repeats and repeats. And I've seen it happen so many times in people's lives over and over again. So again, in this case, if a choice to change the diet to lose weight comes from the space or desire that is about, I'm not good enough, I need to change me in order to be good enough, or I should do this, or I have to change because of this, then it is not coming from an authentic why. It is coming from a why of comparison, a why of self-resistance, a why of internal violence. An authentic why comes from a place of love and self-acceptance and knowing your higher calling and purpose. So I see so many people begin a diet for the reason of losing weight or gaining weight in order to reach some image that the media is portraying as being attractive. And my friends, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Losing weight because you love your body at the size it is, when it's its healthiest, that's one thing. Losing weight to feel your best and feel your healthiest, that is one thing. But what I see happen more often than not when people go about changing their diet for weight loss, or to gain muscle, guys, or girls, it's coming from a very inauthentic why of trying to reach some societal image or imagined societal image of what healthy, beautiful, attractive, sexy, etc., more masculine, more feminine. It's not coming from a space of them loving their body and wanting to care for it. In fact, many of these people hate their bodies and are very abusive to their bodies during this process. So it's not caring for it at all. And I mean abusive in how they talk to themselves, look at themselves, or in being in such a hurry to lose or gain weight that they kill themselves in the gym or starve themselves of certain essential nutrients that their body needs. My friends, this is not caring for your body in any way. This is violence to your body. So this is why this is one of the biggest struggles that I see people facing when it comes to dieting. Okay? It's because their why is not authentic and is actually their why is one of conditional worth, of resistance, and one of internal violence. And my friends, this will never take you where you want to go. So work on knowing yourself, knowing what you love about yourself and your purpose in life first before you start exploring changing your diet. Okay, that's the takeaway here. All right, some other ways that I see people struggling with diets in general is that they have a total lack of awareness of food and nutrition and the body's function and how nutrition plays into this and disorder in the body. Because there is such a lack of awareness here, people will buy into so many different insane and bogus diet claims that they claim that this diet is going to give them exactly what they want. And oftentimes these diets lead them into nutrient deficiencies and hormone imbalance. It ends up not being sustainable, and therefore they give up and they just go back, and then they think it's because something's wrong with them. There is a huge lack of education on proper nutrition. Our society tells us to focus our time, our attention elsewhere. So many people believe that they don't have time to think about nutrition, and they just therefore trust the food industry to make healthy decisions for them. But here's the thing, the food industry is uninterested in your health. They're interested in making money. They follow demand. Your health is not their primary concern. They want to make money and put the responsibility on you to make the educated choices with the information that you can find online or in school to make healthy decisions about how you're going to eat. And the food industry wants you to get hooked on their products in the meantime in hopes to make as much money off of you as they can while your ignorance still exists surrounding the unhealthiness of their products that are just healthy enough to be allowed to sit on the shelves and be labeled as food. But again, this is because they justify it as being the consumer's responsibility to educate themselves to not eat the products if they want to eat healthy. And this is true. The food industry is a business. They are not here to solve for our health. That is our genuine decision to make. If we want the food industry to change the foods that are on the shelf, we need to produce a different demand for it by making healthier choices. So just be aware, the food industry does not have your health at the top of their priority list, or even in the top 10 of their priority list. And neither does the diet industry. And I know that sounds crazy to you, but once again, this industry is focused on making money on ignorance for as long as they can and following the demand. And right now the demand is for quick fixes and diet tips and tricks and, crash diets and miracle diets and ways to lose weight really, really fast and diet pills. And this is why I make it my mission as a coach not to tell my clients what to eat and what not to eat, but to educate them on what foods they choose and what it's doing in their body so that they can make empowered and informed decisions about their health and nutrition. Not dependent on me to tell them what to eat. I want more informed people in this world when it comes to taking care of their body with nutrition. And this brings me to the next point of struggle, which I see when it comes to dieting. And that's the fact that there are a lot of substances on our shelves that we have been shown and socially programmed to see as quote unquote food. There are so many substances on the shelf in grocery stores labeled as food that are so far away from what real whole food is. And due to the lack of education in nutrition, many of us just label these things as food ourselves. And we just eat them without even considering it. And Lord forbid that, changing our diet to eat healthier may ask for us to make the choice that we don't want to consume some of these substances anymore, because let's be honest, a lot of us are really addicted to these substances. I'm talking things like soda, juices, candy. The list goes on and on of the crap that we put in our bodies, where the list of ingredients is literally like sugar and followed by a bunch of crazy chemicals that give it some flavor and make it less perishable on the shelves. And we see this stuff as actually being food. And then the idea of giving those things up because the food industry has designed them to be addictive because we keep placing the demand on them. And so the food industry is like, hell yeah, this is a cash cow. Let's make as much money out of it as we can before the FDA finally realizes, oh no, we need to stop putting Twinkies on the shelf, And this brings me to the next struggle point that I see with people when it comes to diet, and it is this idea of a restrictive mindset. And I told you all earlier about this. We were going to talk about this more in depth. So most people that I see starting dieting, it comes from this restrictive mindset instead of it being from a space of higher purpose. So with a restrictive mindset, first of all, one of the biggest issues is that it sits in this illusion of good versus bad, healthy versus unhealthy foods. Carbs are good or bad, fats are good or bad, protein is good or bad, etc. And this creates this huge issue when it comes to dieting. You see, here's the thing. There are no good or bad foods. And I know some of you are gasping right now and like, what are you talking about? We also need to consider, as I brought up in the previous point of struggle though, what we label as food really makes this illusion tricky to see. There are no such things as good or bad foods, but also some of the things we label as foods aren't actually foods. I'm talking about there are some things out there that we are putting in our body and labeling as food that are truly unhealthy. And I'm talking things like oxidized vegetable oils, sugary soft drinks, sugar-filled sport drinks, candy. These do not have a place being labeled as food. And sure, we can consume them and maybe be entertained by the flavor or whatever. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later as far as the entertainment factor. But here's the point. Our concept of what food is will make this journey very difficult for us, especially when we have this restrictive mindset when it comes to changing our diet. There are no good or bad, healthy or unhealthy foods. There are just foods. And our bodies, according to whatever race, gender, age, etc., will require differing amounts of different types of these foods in order for our body to function at their best. And sometimes that amount is 0 for them to function at their best. And what I mean by that is 0 soda, 0 candy. Sometimes that will be the best decision for our body to function at its best. But as I said earlier, I actually don't even see those being labeled as foods. So I feel like that's a moot point. But there is no such thing as a good or bad food. We have to make decisions when it comes to real food about how much of them serves our body at varying times in our life and according to, what our gender is, how old we are, our ethnicity, all of that plays a role in it. And this means that what is healthy for my body might not be healthy for someone else's body. And what is healthy for someone else's body might not be healthy for mine. So what does this have to do with a restrictive mindset? So this restriction mindset comes from this idea of depriving. But here's the thing. When we are caring for our body in a way that is genuine for it, in order to live the life we choose and want to be living, where we are caring for our body and letting it be at its best, and we're caring for our body and wanting to care for it in a way where it's able to function optimally in this chosen life of health that we want. If that's what we genuinely want, part of that life is choosing the foods that help you to accomplish that want. So this ties back to a restrictive mindset because a restrictive mindset would have you convinced that you're depriving yourself of something by not eating certain foods or only eating certain amounts of it. A restrictive mindset will try to convince you that you have to tell yourself that this food is bad or that it should not be eaten in order to make this choice. And this comes from this space of resistance again, a place of victimhood, a place of disempowerment, and a belief that we start change from this place of guilt and shame. So what I want you to see here, first of all, is that when we make these choices, when we make it in an authentic way, because of the life we want to be living, what you are actually doing is choosing to not eat these foods so that you can live that life in the way that you truly want. This is not restriction or deprivation. This is empowerment and freedom. Secondly, you are not choosing to not eat these foods or amounts of these foods because they are bad or unhealthy. You are choosing this because they do not serve your body for the purpose you want to use it for, based on your authentic purpose in life, based on your higher knowing and your higher calling in life. Okay? This restrictive mindset will convince you that this is so hard and that you will be missing out on enjoying life, that you'll be just restricting yourself and depriving yourself. But if we really look at this, how many things are you wanting to do in your life, but you're not doing because your body lacks energy, or lacks strength, or lacks the ability to move in ways that you would want it to move to do these things? How often have you not done something in your life because your body felt run down and tired or weak? So what I want you to see here, my friends, is that you're actually restricting yourself right now from living the life that you're truly wanting to be living by not being authentic and intentional with your food choices and saying no to foods or no to certain amounts of foods that do not help you live the life that you want to be living. Not because the food is bad or unhealthy, but because it does not serve you and your body for your purpose with that body. Being able to see and know that makes the decisions about foods that you're eating and not eating, making them based in that, this is not restriction. This is freedom. This is coming from a space of love and acceptance and true self-care. Restriction is when you feel you cannot choose to stick to the choices you want to make. Restriction is when you feel like you're stuck and trapped in eating patterns. They make you feel unhealthy and out of control in your own life and in your own body. That's restriction. So this is one of the biggest struggles I see people facing when it comes to making changes in their diet, is this restrictive mindset. It will have you feeling out of control of your eating habits, but also in fear of making decisions to feel in control, because you feel like you will then feel, restricted or deprived in your life, and that you won't be enjoying life if you make those choices. But what I want to offer you is that when you make these choices from a space of authenticity and from a space of higher purpose, this is not a feeling of restriction. This is freedom. Right now, you are restricting yourself from living that life you want to be living. So I want you to start imagining what you would be adding into your life by making these changes and moving into that life. Focus on those instead of this feeling of, I'm going to be missing out on this and cake and ice cream, and everyone else will be eating ice cream at birthday parties and I won't be eating it and I'll miss out on. Instead of focusing on that, think about the things that you will be adding into your life because of the fact that you're making intentional, healthy choices for your body and in the foods you are eating. That's freedom, not restriction. And this brings me to the last reason why I see people struggling with dieting, the word dieting. And that's the fact that many of us use food for entertainment or comfort from what they feel dissatisfied with within themselves and in their lives. This is something that I see the vast majority of people struggling with here. So many people use food to buffer away and numb emotions or uncomfortable situations. So many of us were raised in homes in which food was used to offer us praise or used at events to entertain us. And so we associate foods with praise and comfort. And so when we're feeling bad about ourselves, instead of leaning into the emotion to find out, what is it that I'm not giving myself right now? What do? We run to the kitchen, we run to the cabinet, we run to the snack cabinet or the refrigerator, and we just start stuffing our faces, hoping that we'll feel that same feeling of praise and comfort that we associate food with from all of the pre-programming. And I'm not here to say that we can't enjoy food. But here's the problem. The danger comes in when food becomes the primary source of that comfort or entertainment in life. When we associate that as being the source of the entertainment, the source of the comfort, the source of the happiness and the joy and the praise. And this makes it so hard for people to make changes in their diet to serve their health, because they're living this life in which food is at the center of their comfort and their focus and their happiness. This is one of the many things that I work with my clients on when they have health goals that involve changing their diet. Because here's the thing, if we don't get to those beliefs and thoughts that are creating the current patterns and the reasons why we're using foods for this purpose, then changing the diet becomes this battle of complete unaware, ignorant resistance and willpower. Because you have no idea why it is that you were eating that way in the first place. What problem were you trying to solve with the food? How can we solve it in another way? If you're not aware of that, if you don't start there and look at this, the relationship with food, then all you're doing is just starting again this unsustainable, ignorant, unaware resistance, willpower way of changing your food. And it's not healthy. It's not sustainable, not physically or emotionally. So this brings me to one of the last things that I want to talk about when it comes to this struggle with dieting and weight gain or weight loss, before we talk about what it is that we want to be doing when it comes to the word diet. So why is it that I so often see, and you probably see this too, that people will diet, quote unquote, and reach the weight goal, either the gained weight or the lost weight. And then they reach it and they don't feel happy with themselves. They don't feel any better. They don't feel fulfilled. And they just go right back to the old habits. And this is usually because the weight goal was seen as being, quote unquote, when I reach this point, I will finally be able to feel whatever it is about themselves and their body. Fill in the blank. So many different things. And so the person is not allowing themselves to feel that way, the way they want to feel about themselves and their body, and doesn't learn how to give that to themselves in their journey. So what happens is they reach the weight and they expect that the weight is going to all of a sudden give them this feeling. But here's the thing, that feeling is something that only they can give to themselves. Only they can give themselves permission to feel it and have it, because it comes from our thoughts and beliefs. It comes from your thoughts and beliefs, not from a weight outside of you. And so what I see happening with so many people is they get to the goal weight and maybe the feeling comes, but then it goes away really quick, or it just never arrives. And then I see it. There the person is, in this body that's the weight of the amount that they wanted. But they still cannot accept, love, or feel good about themselves, or feel safe in their own body. I see this happen time and time again, and I really want to help anyone out there that has been struggling with this particularly. I want to help people get out of this cycle and be able to live a life at a healthy weight that's healthy for them. But to get to that weight, we do it from a space of love and acceptance first, not when I get there, I will love and accept myself. So then the question becomes this: how do we want to go about changing our diet in a way that serves us to care for our body? First of all, it's by looking at diet as the first definition, which is the foods that we choose to eat regularly. That is so important to recognize. So another thing that you're going to want to do when it comes to looking at the word diet or dieting in a way that's going to serve you is, first of all, if you're starting off a pattern of eating that's demonizing foods, then you're already putting yourself on a path of dysfunctional relationship with food and with yourself and your body. We do not demonize foods. We put them into context. That's what we want to do. So the next thing we want to do is to stop seeing diet as meaning weight loss or seeing it as a temporary fix. Diet is the food that you choose to eat habitually to care for your body. The weight will take care of itself when you choose foods that serve the health of your body and choose the amounts and frequencies of eating them that serve your body. So the next thing that we want to do One of the biggest things that we want to do is start making decisions about our diet that align with our life purpose and mission, and how our life purpose and mission plays into our health decisions, so that we make decisions about our diet based in this empowered and genuine want, not from this inauthentic belief that we should or have to change. Another thing that we're going to want to start doing in order to successfully make changes to our diet is to come from a space of acceptance and presence. Be aware that you are in your health journey instead of being in this rush to hurry up and get somewhere. You are in it right now. Be in it. Stop trying to rush to some point that you see other people at, or stop rushing at the very start and placing your starting line of your diet 500 steps ahead of where you're actually starting. Whatever you believe is so important about starting at someone else's starting line that you might be seeing on social media, wherever, or whatever you imagine is expected of you to be starting at that line, let it go. Start where you are. You are in that journey right now, making that decision to start where you are. And really, you're not starting. You're already in the middle of the journey. You're just starting to do it with intention now. And whatever it is that you think that you will feel when you quote unquote get there in your journey, start giving that to yourself now. Be present in your journey. Those things that you imagine that you'll feel once you quote unquote arrive at some destination, those are actually the feelings that will keep you in your path and moving forward in the direction that you want to be going with your health and your eating habits. So use the power of those feelings and create those beliefs and thoughts that create those feelings, and start giving them to yourself now. Use it to give yourself permission to believe those things now, and go into your journey knowing these things about yourself, that you are already sexy, beautiful, lovable, acceptable, whole, good enough. Give those beliefs to yourself and use their energy to pull you forward into the empowered, healthy life that you want to be living. Not using feelings of disgust and shame and guilt to push yourself out of a life you don't want to be living into who knows where. And if you're struggling with knowing how to do that, that's what coaches like me are here for, is to show you how to get to that space, to start your journey from that space of acceptance and love and compassion. And I want you to do that. I want you to practice compassion and patience and forgiveness and acceptance as active practices in your journey, not waiting around for them to arrive at some time or some body size or some shape or some weight. Give them to yourselves now, okay? Another thing that's going to truly serve you in this is to drop the comparison model. You are making decisions about your diet based on your body's authentic health needs and journey, not anyone else's. Just because someone else is experiencing different results or results at a different pace than you, it does not mean that they are doing it right or you are doing it wrong, or the other way around, or that they're more successful or better. They are on an entirely different path and journey than you. Stay on your path. Stop comparing a flight from Singapore to New York that's starting at 2 o'clock in the morning on December 5th to a flight from Hawaii to, Brazil starting at 12 o'clock in the afternoon on April 26th. Stop doing that. You are in a completely different life and space and body than this other person you are comparing yourself to. And you comparing is not doing you any service. They are not more successful or better than you in any way. They are in a completely different journey, and therefore you can't compare who's better or who's worse. Like I said, that's like comparing these two flights that are just so completely different, with different destinations, different distances, different, directions of flying, different days of taking off, different times of taking off. It would seem so asinine to us to compare those two flights, but yet we do this to ourselves in our journeys and our bodies all the time. You are in an entirely different journey, so drop the comparison act. The last note I want to give you here when it comes to choosing to begin a journey in changing how you eat, it's to pause. Pause. Before you even think about changing the foods themselves, it's time to start from the actual starting line, which I know you guys want to keep skipping over this. But that starting line is understanding your relationship with food and why it has created the habits that you're currently having with eating foods the way you eat them, and the types of foods that you eat and why you eat so much of them or so little of them. The journey does not start with choosing the foods that you will want to eat on your journey or the amounts of them. The journey does not start there. The journey starts with addressing your relationship with food and your body. Things like knowing how your body image affects your relationship with food, knowing what your body image is and why that's causing you to make the choices you're making with food. Things like using food as a source of comfort for uncomfortable emotions or circumstances. Things like using food to fill up spaces of boredom. Things like using food as a source of entertainment or a source of happiness and joy. And again, this does not mean that we can't feel happiness and joy while we eat, but when food becomes the source of this, then the relationship with food becomes toxic for you, both emotionally and physically. So pay attention here. This is where we want to start. The journey doesn't start with making the food choices. It starts with knowing your relationship with food in your body. Knowing how it is that you may be using deprivation of food as a way to punish yourself for something that you feel shame or guilt over. There are so many different ways in which the relationship with food can be toxic. And therefore, guess what? A diet is not going to solve this. A diet is just going to lead you back into a loop, back into another way of representing that toxic relationship with food. It's not going to give you what you want. So pause. Please pause and start at the actual starting line. The key here that I want you to take away is to start at your actual starting line, And I want you to work with a coach or a therapist to find out first what your relationship with food is and how it's contributing to you feeling like you cannot make the choices and stick with them to live the healthy life that you want to be living. I know that social media and advertising, it can feel so tempting when we look at these to start with diet pills, to start with miracle diets, miracle foods, to quote unquote fix this feeling of feeling out of control with your health and your eating. But I promise you this, if you take the time to just pause for a second this time around, and instead of jumping straight into the diet pills, the diets, or even the exercise as the solution, start with looking at your relationship with yourself and food. Look at the beliefs and thoughts you have about your body and food and exercise. Start with this and your mindset surrounding these. And I promise you that this time around, when you start there, changing the eating habits is so much more fulfilling and feels a lot more empowered and motivating and will take you where you actually want to go. Instead of starting in this resistive, restrictive, shame and guilt-based urgent battle of the willpower. My friends, I promise you, pause and start at the actual starting line, which is your relationship with yourself and food. So, dieting. It tends to be this same old rinse and repeat solution that you want to keep turning to, that ultimately, in the end, gives you the same result that you actually don't want. Meaning that the weight is not going to make you feel fulfilled. Meaning that willpower is not the solution. Meaning that starting with shame and guilt as your fuel, it's not the way to go. Meaning that killing yourself in the gym and starving yourself is not how we create health. Let's look at diet for its first definition. The foods that you choose to regularly eat. Choose is such an empowering word, my friends. Much more empowering than restricting and depriving. Let's look at what you want in your health and therefore the foods and the amounts that you want to choose to put in your body to create that health in your life. Let's start there and watch you unstoppably step into that life that you have been believing is not possible for you. Okay? That's what I want to see for each and every one of you. To step into that healthy life that you've been convinced for so long, it's just not going to happen for me. It will, and I want to help you step into it unstoppably. Okay? I love you all so much. This is all I'm going to share with you all today about dieting. If you're interested in more, I've got so much more to share, my friends. There's so much more to say here, and how it applies to you individually has so much more in it that we could talk about. But for now, I want to leave this here. Reach out to me if you want to step into this work. I'm here to help you all. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you all step into this from a space of empowerment and love and compassion, and to do it unstoppably. None of this yo-yo dieting and circling around and back to the unhealthy relationship with food. No, we're not doing that, okay? Let's start from this empowered space of becoming unstoppable. I love you all. I wish you all the most health-filled end of this week and an empowered start of healthy decisions into next week. And I'll talk to you all again here next Thursday. Ciao. Hey, thank you for listening in this week. I hope you enjoyed the content of this episode. If you did, please subscribe or follow this podcast to receive the newest episodes every week as I bring them to you here on the Connect Your Health to Life coaching channel. Ratings, reviews, and comments are always appreciated. These allow me to know more of what my listeners would like in the podcast and allow for more people who may be searching for a podcast just like this one to find the Connect Your Health to Life coaching channel. If you would like more information about me and the work that I do with my clients one-on-one, then please visit my website at www.slch.ch. Again, that is www.slch.ch. You can also find me on social media on Instagram at SethLusk_coaching. Again, that is SethLusk_coaching. And on Facebook in my free Facebook group community called A Healthy Life Connection. We would love to have you in the group, and it's only 3 membership questions that you have to answer to join. And again, it's entirely free. And if you need any further information or just want to say hello, feel free to send me an email directly at slusk.health@slch.ch. Again, that is slusk.health@slch.ch. Thank you again so much for listening, and I look forward to our next time together. Ciao.